Hello and welcome. My name is Dr. Liam O'Reilly and I'm a lecturer at Swansea University. In this video I want to show you how to install and get started with a system called Laravel. So first of all I want to say that this computer is a fresh install of Windows 10. I've done all the updates and I've basically just installed the software I'm using to record this video and Google Chrome. So let's get started by going to the Laravel website. So a quick Google and we've got Laravel. So Laravel is a PHP framework that allows you to develop websites without starting from scratch. It's quite a nice framework and it's one of my favorites. So if we go to the documentation, you can see there's different ways to install Laravel. Now the obvious way is to install a web server on your computer, PHP, MySQL, all the libraries. But I don't really favor this method. This means you're installing all of this stuff on your computer, and trying to update it and upgrade it and maintain it is a little bit awkward, and you run the risk of bloating up your Windows install in this case, and you don't always want MySQL to run and a web server to run. You only want these things to run when you're actually developing the website. So a better way, and the preferred way in my opinion, is to use this system called Laravel Homestead. So what is this? Okay, so it looks a little overwhelming with the number of steps, but it's fairly simple. So the idea here is we're going to use virtual machines, and to provide the virtual machines we're going to use a system called VirtualBox. And the idea is inside a virtual machine we are going to install all the necessary stuff to develop the website. But to create the virtual machine we don't want to do that by hand, so we're going to use a system called Vagrant, and Vagrant will automatically set up a virtual machine in VirtualBox with pre-installed images and pre-installed software to get us up and going. So if this isn't making sense, it'll make sense as we go through this video. So the first thing we need, actually, before we install Vagrant and VirtualBox, is a good text editor. So the text editor I quite like is Sublime. Ooh, I spelled that wrong, Sublime. So unfortunately this is not free. I've bought a license and I use this quite regularly. However, for this video, I'm not going to use this because it's not free. If you want to use it, there's a free version where you can use it for a trial period to evaluate it and then purchase it. But for this video, we're going to use a text editor called Atom. So I think the URL is atom.io. And I'm going to download and install this. Now, I'm on a university internet connection, so my download speeds are pretty quick. So let's install this text editor first. Did I click that? Yeah. Okay, so Atom takes a little bit of time to install, and we'll just leave that do whatever it's going to do. So this is Atom. I want to get rid of the welcome guide. I'm not particularly interested. I can get rid of the welcome screen, whatever this is. And yeah, it's just a text editor, but it's got all the features I want. It understands how to syntax, highlight, PHP and everything we're going to be working with, and so it's quite nice. It's also got the ability to open a folder, which is going to be invaluable. Anyway, let's close this for now because we don't need it right now, and let's go back to Laravel Homestead. So the first thing we're going to do is install VirtualBox. So let's go off to the VirtualBox website. Okay, so let's download VirtualBox 5.2. I'm on a Windows host, so host is the name given to the computer you're actually running things on. I sometimes call it the outside machine, but technically it's called the host. So let's download VirtualBox. I'm on a university internet connection, and so my download speeds are pretty quick. So let's install VirtualBox, whatever it wants. I don't particularly like shortcuts everywhere. And yeah, let's install all the components the VirtualBox needs. Okay, so this is VirtualBox, and this is the interface to VirtualBox. So we can create new virtual machines, set them all up with whatever software you want inside. I can install Linux and different versions of Windows and things like this. But we don't want to install these things manually, because then we'll have to set up the inside of the virtual machine. Instead, we want Vagrant to do this for us. So I'm going to close VirtualBox and go back to Laravel, and you can see here a link to Vagrant. So let's go and download Vagrant and install that as well. So I'm on Windows 64-bit. This will download. Right, and now we can install Vagrant. So let's click through this, installing all the pieces we need. Now, Vagrant is a tool that's going to manage a virtual machine for us. It's going to set the virtual machine up, set up all the software inside the virtual machine so we don't have to do that. And it's just a nice tool to be using here. Okay, so that's Vagrant installed. Now, Vagrant is a command line tool, so it's not going to have a GUI interface. And it seems it's now time for me to restart my system. So have we got all the software we need? I've installed VirtualBox, I've installed a good text editor, I've installed Vagrant. I think that's everything we need. So I'm going to go ahead and restart my computer, and I'll see you back in a moment. Welcome back. So the first thing I want to do is check Vagrant's installed correctly. So Vagrant is a command line tool, so you don't get a GUI. So you're going to have to get used to this, but using a command line. So the first thing I want to do is type Vagrant into the command line and press enter. And if this shows me some nice output like this, that means Vagrant's been found, the command's been found, executed, and it's all installed correctly. Great, okay. So let's go back to the Laravel website, laravel.com. Let's go to documentation, go to the Laravel Homestead area, and come down here. And what are we going to do now? So the next piece is we need Homestead. So what is Homestead? Vagrant is a system that sets up and provisions virtual boxes, and it does this using so-called Vagrant boxes. So a Vagrant box is an image of a virtual machine which Vagrant uses to deploy or instantiate a virtual machine with. So we can download the Laravel Homestead box, that'll be cached, and then we can use Vagrant to instantiate that box to create multiple virtual machines. So we could have 6 different virtual machines all loaded with Homestead. Now, what we don't want to do is download the whole image every single time. So you could imagine having 6 virtual machines, but you don't want to download Homestead 6 times. So this command, Vagrant box add Laravel Homestead, will go and add the box Laravel Homestead to your Vagrant system. So I'm going to copy this command, go back to our command line window, paste it in. Now, if you run this command, unfortunately in my experience, Vagrant sometimes downloads a VMware box or something else. I want to force it to download a VirtualBox box. So I'm going to add on to the end of this command, --provider equals VirtualBox. And I press enter, and this is now going to go and download the Laravel Homestead box for VirtualBox. So this is a fairly big file. It's going to take some time to download. Even though my internet connection is very good here, the hosting provider of this particular file seems to have a more limited connection, and it's going to take apparently 17 minutes. So I'm going to pause the video here, and I'll see you back when this is done. Okay, so that's the box downloaded and cached. So let's go check this out and make sure it is cached. So I'm going to open up my file Explorer in Windows, and there's a couple of things I want to share with you here. This list on the sidebar, you're not seeing the full directory structure. I would highly recommend you right click and say show all folders. So that's going to make your life a lot easier. So this folder here, Liam O'Reilly, that's your home folder. So you can see there the little icon of the person. Now, where does this folder actually live? So if I go to my computer, C drive, users, Liam O'Reilly, this is my home folder. I can also get there just by clicking Liam O'Reilly. So that's good to understand. The second one is that new versions of Windows like to hide the file extensions, and this is fine as a normal user, but as a developer this is a pain in the neck. So I would highly recommend you turn that off. So if you go to View, Options, View, then you can turn off hide extensions for known file types. So for instance, if you've got a JPEG image on your computer, it'll just be the file name without the .jpg. Turn this off and it'll always display the extension. and this is very useful when developing or doing any form of software development. So, right, that sets up the File Explorer for us. So in your home folder, you can see there's a .vagrant.d folder. Now, lots of Linux type tools start with dots in front of them, and we've just got to get used to that. But if I go inside here, you don't want to mess with any of these files, but we're just going to take a look. Then we can see there's a folder called Boxes, and inside here we got this folder which is Laravel Homestead, and inside there we've got one box, version 6.3 in this case, and inside there we've got the VirtualBox stuff, which allows it to instantiate a virtual machine. So that's all set up. Great. So let's go back to the website and follow this through. So we've installed the Homestead Vagrant box, or specifically we've caused Vagrant to cache it. Next, Homestead is two parts. There's a bit of software to live on the outside machine, as in on this machine on the host, and then there's the virtual image which lives in the virtual machine. So now we need to install the little bit of software that lives on the outside, and I promise you this is the last bit of software to install on the outside machine. Now, the recommended way to do this is use Git, go clone this repository, and then check out a very specific version. If you want to use Git, I would highly recommend it. I would set up keys and use a Git hosting provider like Bitbucket or something like this, but I'm going to assume you're not using Git in this example. So I'm going to take this Git website, namely that part, so https github.com laravelhomestead.git. I'm going to copy that and paste it into my web browser. That takes me to the GitHub page for this product, and where am I? There should be releases. There we are, 91 releases. So let's click on releases, and the most recent release is 7.15.1, and that's the release I want. So I'm going to go and download this. So click the source code button there, and that'll go and download the Homestead data. Now this is quite small, it's nothing to worry about. So once that's downloaded, I can close this and we can go and look at that folder. So go back up to my home folder, my home directory, and where's downloads? So in downloads, I got lots of stuff in downloads, fine. But Homestead, right. So I'm going to extract that folder. I'll just extract it here for now and we'll move it into the right place. And so we got, in downloads, I'm in a folder called Homestead 7.15.1, and within that another folder called 7.15.1, and there we've got all the stuff. So what I want to do, and be very careful how you do this, I want to take that folder, and first of all I'm just going to rename it to be Homestead, not Homestead hash, mess that up, just Homestead. I'm then going to move this folder, so I'm going to cut it, and it should live in your home directory. So it lives there. Right, so inside here is all the Homestead stuff. So once again, in my home directory, I've now got a folder called Homestead, and inside there is the actual content of Homestead. I don't have nested folders all called Homestead. Right, as I like to keep my computer clean, I'm going to go and delete everything that's in my download folder because we no longer need them, and go back to my Homestead folder. So we don't have to worry almost at all about this folder. It's going to take care of itself. But this folder is basically going to be a one-to-one mapping with our virtual machine. So if I open VirtualBox, then you'll see we have no virtual machines in the list. And when we get Homestead running, we'll have one virtual machine, probably called Homestead 7, which correlates one-to-one with this folder. And the good thing with the way I'm telling you to set this up, or showing you, is you can have one Homestead folder and virtual machine for however many websites you want to develop in Laravel or other technologies. So let's get going. The first thing we need to do is go back to our command line program, our command window, command prompt, and cd to our Homestead folder. Now, do I want Homestead with a capital H or small h? Doesn't really matter as long as you're consistent. You know what? I'm going to rename that to a capital H. Even though Windows is case insensitive, I'm kind of more used to it being a capital H. So first of all, I'm going to rename it to Homestead 2, and then I'm going to rename it back to homestead. Right, so now I got a capital H. That's probably me being paranoid, but fine. So let's cd to homestead. So now I'm in the folder, and if I type dir, I get all the files. Now the very first thing you want to do is run this file called init.bat. So I'm going to run init.bat, and that's going to create a few files for me. But the main file it's going to create is this homestead.yaml file. And this is the configuration file for homestead. So I'm going to open this in our new text editor. Done. Right. So what this folder... everything's come back. Okay, let's close all of these things again. Right, so homestead.yaml. Can I close that for now? So homestead.yaml. Now this is sort of a configuration file which will allow Vagrant to set up the virtual machine for us. So the virtual machine's IP address is going to be this. It's always, and I wouldn't recommend you change this, I would recommend you stick with 192.168.10.10. The memory of the virtual machine is 2048. Lower this if you don't have sufficient memory. VirtualBox will consume 2 gigabytes of memory if you leave it like this, and it won't be available to other programs. So if your computer only has 2 gigabytes of RAM, then this will probably crash your computer and you may want to lower it to 1024. If you've got 16 gigabytes or something available, then you don't actually need to increase it. I found the default settings here are more than powerful enough to run the VirtualBox quite adequately. One CPU is fine, the provider's VirtualBox, and what's all the rest of the stuff. So here we've got SSH keys. If you know what you're doing with SSH, go and set SSH up. If you don't know what you're doing, what I would recommend is you delete these lines. Vagrant will take care of sorting out the SSH keys to allow communication from the outside host into the inside virtual box. If you don't know what we're talking about with SSH, don't worry, this will become a bit more obvious as we go through. Now the next thing is to set up some of these folders. Now the idea is we're going to have a folder on the outside of our computer, in our home folder called code, which is mapped onto a folder within the virtual machine. Now you can stick with code if you like, but I do a fair bit of software development, and if I have a folder called code, I'm going to get very confused because I've got code all over the place. So what I'm going to do is instead go back to my home folder and create a folder called Laravel. So what do we have here? I've got the homestead folder, which is going to be responsible and mapped one-to-one with the virtual machine. That's the configuration for the virtual machine. All my actual code and all my websites I'm going to be developing are going to live in this folder called Laravel. So the things in Laravel are going to be the code for my websites, and homestead is just the configuration for that one VirtualBox. So now I've got this folder Laravel. So I want the folder ~Laravel to be available within the virtual machine. Now the virtual machine in this case is the homestead VirtualBox, and that is going to be running Ubuntu, a distribution of Linux. So in Linux, everything comes off the root file system, and off the root file system we have the folder home that holds all the home folders, and we are going to be using the normal user that's provided by the homestead installation called Vagrant. So that's the user. Just like Liam O'Reilly is my home folder in Windows, inside the virtual machine the home folder is going to be /home/Vagrant. And inside here I don't want a folder code, that's going to confuse me, so I'm going to stick with Laravel. So on the outside machine I've got this folder, Laravel, inside my home folder, and this is going to be mapped to the Laravel folder within my home folder, and I'm going to be the user Vagrant inside the VirtualBox, and so that's going to be nice. Everything I put in the outside Laravel is going to appear on the inside Laravel, and everything on the inside is going to appear on the outside. In fact, they are exactly the same folder. So that's the folder map setup. Next comes this part. So I've got to come up with a site name. So what are we going to develop? Swansea doesn't have a zoo, so maybe we're going to create Swansea Zoo. So I'm going to say Swansea Zoo. Okay, right. Now, maybe I'm going to go and buy the domain swanseazoo.com or .co.uk, something like this. But what I want to do is develop this site locally on my local development machine. And at some other point, we'll go and buy the domain and we'll push our code up to the domain and get it hosted somewhere. So the question is, what top level domain? So a lot of people will advocate using dev. This is an absolutely terrible idea because a few months ago, I believe, Google bought and now own the .dev top level domain. So this is going to cause problems. Indeed, it already causes problems in Chrome. I would recommend you use .test. This is a reserved top level domain reserved for development. So let's use it for that. So my website is going to be called swanseazoo.test, and that's what I'm going to type into the web browser to get to the website. So that's great. And then we got home. So in the home folder, in Vagrant, in my folder called Laravel, so let's change that code to Laravel. Inside another folder, there should be a public rec. So this is getting a bit confusing, but let me keep going for a moment. Swansea Zoo/public. So let's have a look here. So I've got home, Vagrant, Laravel. So in this folder is going to live all my individual websites. Now that folder is mapped onto home, Vagrant, Laravel. Now that's assuming I'm going to have quite a few different websites. So I've got swanseazoo.test, and that's going to be mapped into, or the website is going to be mapped into the LinkedIn folder, a subfolder called Swansea Zoo that's going to hold the whole Swansea Zoo, and then a public folder. So this public part is where Laravel will serve the, where the web server will serve the Laravel site from. But let's not worry about that for now. Now let's say we had a few sites. We can run a few sites off this Homestead box, so let's add a few more. So we could add another 3, say, okay? So what can we have? We got Swansea Zoo, so maybe we don't have enough pizza places. So Liam's Pizza Shop, and then that's going to live in a folder called Liam's Pizza Shop. And we can have another one down here called wherever you want, as long as these names match. You can have them not matching, but then it's going to be very confusing. So you can have a lot of different websites set up here. I only want the one for now, so let's keep it simple. So we're going to make Swansea Zoo. Great. Now, databases, I would suggest you just leave it as Homestead. If you want to create a particular database for Swansea Zoo, then you can go and do that. That's not a problem, but I'm going to keep it nice and simple and just stick with the default of Homestead. So what this is going to do now is go away, and when we run the right command, it's going to create a new virtual box with this IP address, this configuration, this folder mapping, the website that's going to be magically made available on the domain swanseazoo.test is going to magically link into this folder using the shared folder feature of VirtualBox, and Vagrant is also going to set up within MySQL, within the VirtualBox, a new database called Homestead. And just for clarity, the username of that, I believe, is Homestead, and the password is secret. Right, let me go and save this. File save. Where's save? Save's done there. Right. The very last thing to do is, we haven't gone and bought this domain or anything, so how does our computer know where this is? Yeah? So what we need to do is almost trick our computer into this. Now, there's some special folders. If you're on Mac or Linux, then the file you want to be editing is /etc/hosts. If you're on Windows, it's in a little bit of a more inconvenient place. So let me show you where this is. So first of all, I'm going to copy swanseazoo.test. I never trust my typing. And now we've got to dig a little bit. So let's go to this computer. Let's go to C drive. Let's go to Windows. Let's go to System 32. Then we go down to a folder called Drivers. Then we go down to a folder called etc. And now we've got a file called hosts with no extension. And what we want to do is edit this file. Now, how on earth do I do this? Because this file is protected. You might need to edit this as sort of the pop-ups, the UAC that comes up telling you you're editing a protected file. You need to just deal with that and edit this file. I've got that turned off for the purposes of recording this video. So I want to edit this one file. So the IP address is 192.168. Ooh, what have I done? I've got numlock turned off. Right, so let's try that again. 192.168.10.10. And the domain is swanseazoo.test. What are we actually doing here? This file goes back a long way in terms of network history. But basically, it allows us to almost alias a URL to an IP address. So when we go to swanseazoo.test, instead of the mechanics of the network stack looking up through DNS what the IP address with this website is, it'll bypass all of that, and instantly Windows will tell the application, the web browser, this is the IP address for this website. And this IP address matches the one in our homestead file, 192.168.10.10. So when our web browser goes to swanseazoo.test, the web browser will find out that website lives at 192.168.10.10, which will be redirected with the site system into our inside virtual machine, and we'll see our website. So that's all you have to do there. And for every website that you put in, every site that you put into your homestead.yaml file, you'll want an entry in your hosts file. So let me go and save this. And it'll play. Right, so this is the problem I said you might end up receiving. I'm unable to save this file because I'm not running this as an administrator. Okay, so let me copy that line. And this can be the awkward part. So I'm going to... can I say... No, I really can't save this file. Okay, so what I need to do is... I've got the host file here. Let's have a look. How do I do this easily? Right, so I'm going to run Atom from here. I'm going to right click it and say run as administrator. Okay, so I've got a second version of Atom running now, running as an administrator. So this is potentially dangerous because I can change any file in the entire system and break my system. But we know what we're doing. So let's open the file again. We want to go to Windows System 32. Yeah, so C, Windows System 32, drivers, etc., hosts. And now I'm running this as an administrator. I can actually type that line and I should be able to save it. Save. Oh, come on. Why can't I save that now? Right, let me close both atoms down. So I've got no atoms running whatsoever. And I'm going to try that again because I really believe that should have worked. Right click Atom, run as administrator. It's reopened everything I had closed except the one file I actually wanted. So file, open file. Right, so this PC, C drive, Windows, System 32, drivers, etc., hosts. Paste the line and save. Right, this time I managed to save. Excellent. Close. And just because I'm paranoid, I'm going to reopen that and just check that it actually did save. Okay, I should really find a way of turning these off. I don't want them popping up every time, but we can see it's in there. Excellent. So, we've got the host file set up. We no longer need to edit that. Everything's good. So, if we go back to the Liam O'Reilly, we're going to put our website in Laravel, and in our homestead file, then we have now set up homestead.yaml, where we've got, and make sure everything matches. You really want to make sure that your home folder Laravel matches here, home vagrant Laravel, and then in the two of your sites, home vagrant Laravel, the particular website that you're working on, and public. Excellent. So now we have that, we are ready to go with our deployment. So let's go and set Laravel up. Let's go and get Homestead running. So we are in the Homestead folder. So if you've closed this, let's just do this from scratch. Click Windows, type CMD, press enter. I'm in the home folder, CD, Homestead, and now we are ready to start Vagrant and the moment of truth. So I'm going to type Vagrant up. So Vagrant's a tool with a couple of commands. If I just type Vagrant, we'll see all the commands available. And we can type up, start, and provision the Vagrant environment. So start up and create the virtual machine. We can Vagrant halt to stop the virtual machine. It actually doesn't just stop it, it actually shuts it down properly. And if you feel like and want to completely destroy the virtual machine and delete everything, you can type Vagrant destroy. But right now we want to start the machine up. Vagrant up. So we press enter. This takes a little bit of time. And if we look at the virtual box while we're doing it, then we'll be able to see, sorry, don't want to do that. Right, so what's happening here? Vagrant is creating a hidden virtual box. So it's created a virtual machine, with the settings which we specified in homestead.yaml. It's importing the Laravel homestead box that we cached earlier and importing that as the hard drive of the virtual box. Here we can see that has now created the Homestead 7 virtual box. It's going through, setting everything up. It's mapping lots of ports. So from the outside machine, we can get to the inside machine. I've got a firewall pop-up that's appeared here. So I'm going to click allow. Okay, so we've managed to provision our machine. I skipped a little bit, but you can see here that going from the top, we set up a lot of ports. So the Homestead Vagrant system automatically maps a lot of the ports on the outside machine, the host machine, onto the inside machine. So you can see these being mapped here. It goes and sets up our SSH keys for us to talk to the inside machine. It took some time to set up SSH, which is fine. We deleted the SSH key entries, so Vagrant automatically generated new keys for us. It mounted the shared folders, so C users Liam O'Reilly Homestead home Vagrant Laravel now points to our Laravel folder, so the inside folder points to the outside folder. What else has it done? It's done some more things. It's created certificates for swansea.zoo.test. So it's restarting the cron system. Right, this is the web server. Nginx. Right, so that you're not using Apache or anything, we're using Nginx. That's fine, that's all been set up for us based on the site's entry in the YAML, in the homestead.yaml configuration file. It's created a MySQL database called Homestead. It's created a Postgres one, which we're not going to use. Don't worry about this warning about Composer running as root. It's all in the virtual machine anyway, and we're ready to go. So you can see the virtual machine is running. Great. If you wanted to stop it, for instance, I'm not going to stop it just yet. Okay, so the next thing is, let's go inside the virtual machine. So I'm going to type vagrant SSH, press enter, and this is a command to allow us to SSH, so a secure shell inside, to get inside the virtual machine. For some reason this does take a few seconds to run, but once we're in it's fine. So we are now inside the virtual machine. So everything on my computer is the outside machine, except this window. This window is now the inside machine. You can see it's running Ubuntu. This has changed. This is now the Linux style of prompt. And if I do an ls, then you can see we've got one folder in the home directory called Laravel, which is a one-to-one mapping with our Laravel folder on the outside. So what I'm going to do is cd into that directory and take a look what's in there. Nothing. No files. So let's go and create a file on the inside. So I'm going to type touch test, and as if by magic it appears on the outside. And if I type ls, you can see the file test, and if I delete it on the outside and type ls again, it's gone on the inside. So this is really the same folder. Whatever we create on the outside is the same as the inside. Brilliant. And we are now ready to actually create our Laravel website. So we've done all of this. We've installed all of this, launched the VirtualBox. So we've got the VirtualBox set up, we've SSH'd into it. Per project installation we haven't done. We've done sort of a global install where we can have all our websites within one Homestead box. We don't need any of this. Right, I think we're done with this page actually. This is all sort of advanced features which you can dive into if you need to, but right now we don't. Yeah, I think we're done. So, all the hard work is done. So go back to the installation page of Laravel, so just the top documentation page of Laravel, and scroll down. We are installed. And now the way you want to create a new website in Laravel is with this command, Laravel new, and your website name. So make sure you are standing in your Laravel folder. So from your home folder, which looks like this, you want to cd to Laravel, and all our websites are going to live inside here. We currently have none. So I'm going to type Laravel new, and this now needs to be exactly the same name as I used in the homestead.yaml configuration file, which I decided was Swansea Zoo. I kept it all lowercase, which was nice, and this is going to instantiate the folder Swansea Zoo with all the Laravel installation that we need. So I press enter, and this is going to kick off Composer, which is a PHP package manager, and is going to download all the pieces. Now Laravel brings in lots and lots of libraries. We don't need to worry about them too much. The main thing we're getting started with all of this web development is to not get overwhelmed with the amount of technology and the amount of files. Just learn little by little all the files as we go along. But this is going to go away and download and install lots of things. The beauty of having all of this inside the VirtualBox is you don't pollute your machine with all of these libraries. They're all contained within the virtual machine, sort of. Now, here you can see that, let's just check where I am. In my home folder, I've got the folder Laravel. Inside there, I've got one folder Swansea Zoo, and you might have another 6 folders here, one for each wonderful website you're developing. But within Swansea Zoo, you can see that this folder's starting to get looking a little bit full. As Composer goes away and downloads all of this stuff, it's putting them all in here. So the website's starting to be set up. But let's leave that go for a moment, and we'll come back to it once this is finished. It can take a little bit of time, but it doesn't take too long. Okay, so that is everything installed. So let's just have a quick recap here. This has downloaded all the different vendor libraries that we need. It's set some things up. We go down and it's copied environment.example to .environment. It's created some encryption keys for us and just set some things up. So the application's ready, our website's done. So what we can do now is it's all up and running. That's the site. So we can do ls-la, and we've got Swansea Zoo. I can cd into Swansea Zoo and have a look what's in there. And we've got lots and lots of files and folders, fine. And if we go to Swansea Zoo here, remember this is the same folder, then we got all of these same files. So our website's done, right? We can figure out homestead.yaml file to have, let's go have a look at it. Let's go back to, because it's kind of important to understand how this works. So let's go to Homestead. Let's go to homestead.yaml and open that in Axiom again. put that slightly off the screen. And the main thing to notice here is from my home folder, Laravel is, this folder here, Laravel, is mapped onto home vagrant Laravel. So tilde here is home vagrant Laravel. And then in home vagrant Laravel Swansea Zoo public. So if I type pwd here, you'll see I'm standing in home vagrant Laravel Swansea Zoo, and there's a public folder. So that folder there, this one here, is being used to serve the website swanseazoo.test. We went into our host file on the computer and made swanseazoo.test point to 192.168.10.10, which is exactly this virtual machine. So when we go to swanseazoo.test, that's going to get that IP address, or the browser is going to find that IP address, and it's going to try to access this computer, which is running a web server, namely Nginx, and that web server is serving up exactly this folder, which is this outside folder, right? So whatever we do to this outside folder is now being represented on that website. So let's go to Chrome. I would highly recommend you use Chrome, mainly because of the awesome development, the developer extensions, the developer tools. So I use these quite a lot, and they make working web websites quite nice, but we don't need them for now. So I'm going to open a new tab, and I'm going to type swanseazoo.test. Now, if this does a Google search, you've just got to be careful of that. I don't think it's going to do a Google search. I've obviously got to spell test correctly. So let's have a look what happens. We've got a Laravel site. Absolutely great. Now, I wasn't quite expecting that to work, because when we turned on the virtual machine, this public folder didn't exist. Yeah? So Laravel, Swansea Zoo public, that did not exist when we turned on the virtual machine, when we done Vagrant app. And so I was expecting the web server on the virtual machine, Nginx, to be in a bit of a confused state, because it was being told to serve a website from this folder, but this folder didn't exist. So if you find your website doesn't work, what you need to do is go out of your virtual machine. So you can type exit or hold Control and press D. That does the same thing. And now I'm back on the Windows side. I'm on my host computer. And I'm just going to type okay, I can't tab complete. Vagrant halt. This will shut down the virtual machine. And obviously, once you finish web development for the day, you want to run Vagrant halt, because this is taking up 2 gigabytes of your RAM and is going to affect whatever else you're doing on your machine. So that has now shut down the virtual machine. If I go to VirtualBox, you'll see it's powered off. Do not start and stop the virtual machine through VirtualBox. Use the Vagrant command. So I've shut it down, and now I can type Vagrant up again. This isn't going to re-provision it and reset it up. It's just going to boot it up. So this time when it boots up, Nginx will find the folder because it exists. And if you did have a problem after you boot it up, I'm pretty sure you won't have a problem. So let's up the machine. This will take a few moments, but this is powering on this virtual machine. So we'll give that a few seconds. It doesn't have to set it all back up. It's already there. It's just got to essentially boot it up. It does do a little bit of checking, but nothing major. The SSH piece always seems to take a little bit of time. I'm not sure if that's my setup or how I'm using it, but I haven't got it to be any quicker. So we'll wait for that to start up. Okay, so that's almost up, and it's up. So, Vagrant SSH, that takes us with a command line onto the inside of the virtual machine. Again, this takes a few seconds to execute. Right, so we're on the inside. We can see our Laravel folder, so let's go into the Laravel folder, and in there I've got one site at the moment, Swansea Zoo, so let's have a look at Swansea Zoo, and we got lots of files and folders that represent the outside, and I can refresh this page, and brilliant, we got our website up and running. You've created your very first Laravel website. It's running in your virtual machine, brilliant. But let's go and try something. Let's go and do something with it. So I made you download Atom, and hopefully you followed me and downloaded Atom. And what I want you to do is we are going to go File, Open Folder. And the folder we're going to open is Laravel Swansea Zoo. So I want to open this folder. Now it might sound a bit strange to open a folder, but let's go ahead and select the folder. So once that's done, we've got the whole folder here, and that basically represents our folder structure in Swansea Zoo. So you can see app, bootstrap, config, database, app, bootstrap, config, database. And this makes it really nice to edit files because you're going to be editing a lot of files, going in and out of folders, and you don't want to constantly navigate to them and then open them. You can do all this from within your editor. So I'm going to get rid of that, and we've got all of these. Now the main thing is not to get overwhelmed by the folder structure in Laravel. It might change from version to version. Laravel is actively developed, and does change from version to version. So your folder structure might not look exactly like this, but I doubt it's going to deviate much. And I'm not going to go over what each of these folders are and what all the files are. You learn them as you go. You learn the pieces you need as you come across them. But the very first place to start is roots. So a root is the type of thing you type in to your navigation bar. So if we go to the Laravel site, then laravel.com docs 5.6. So that's a root. In old school web applications, then this represents a folder. So you've got a folder called docs in the web root folder. There's a folder called docs, and within that folder there's a folder called 5.6. And then within there, there's probably a file called index.html. Roots are decoupled in Laravel. So instead, if we go to the root folder, then you'll see a couple. So you've got roots for APIs, some other files, but web.php is the main one. And Laravel is programmed in PHP. So, okay, so let's open this file. Now, we've got the PHP starting tags. You don't have the closing tag, but you basically follow the patterns. So here, if you go and get the main page of your website, the root of your website, then we're going to return a view called welcome. I'm not going into views or anything like this in this video, but that basically is this page you're seeing. So how about we go and do something? Let's go and add a second root. So if you go to the page animals, then I'm just going to return a string. Swansea Zoo has many cool animals! Exclamation mark. So if you visit /animals, then we're going to return this string. So I'm going to save this file. You can see the blue dot disappears when you save it. Right. Go back over here. We can refresh. We've still... Oh, I've typed something wrong. What have I done wrong there? Root get bracket. And this is why you want a good editor. So you can see the bracket matching. So the bracket I'm on here matches with the one on line 19. This bracket matches with the one on line 19 and the semicolon. I can't see what I've done wrong there. Oh, silly me. I've forgotten a semicolon. I'm sure I could have read the nice error message as well. Syntax error, unexpected, curly brace. So it's unexpecting that curly brace just there because it's expecting a semicolon. Maybe I should read the error messages and then I would actually debug my website quicker. So let's save this file, save, go back to our website, refresh, and swanseazoo.test slash, so we're hitting slash, that's hitting the slash root, which returns the view, the welcome view, and that's where we get this page. But if we now go to animals, and press enter, then we hit the other root, this one, /animals, and you can see here, Swansea Zoo has many cool animals. Excellent. And that's the string we returned. So maybe we have another one, and we have, I don't know, food. And Swansea Zoo will soon be having many food outlets. Stay tuned. Save. Go back over here. Our animal page still works. You try these often. What did I call? I call it food. And there we are. So now we hit our second route, or our third route, depending on how you want to count. Swansea Zoo will soon be having many food outlets. Stay tuned. So everything's up and running. Absolutely brilliant. So web.php, we got all our files here. You don't want to get overwhelmed with all of these files. The only one we've looked at so far is web.php. But I think that's enough for now. So you can play around with this a little, get your feet wet, try some things out, and try it out. So just to finish up and to explain how things work here, I'm going to close this down and I'm going to close my website. So I'm inside the virtual machine. I type exit or Control D to quit the SSH connection, and now I'm back on the outside machine. You've got to run the vagrant app commands and vagrant halt and things from the homestead folder. And right now I'm going to shut down the virtual machine. So vagrant halt. That'll go and shut down the virtual machine. Okay, fine. Takes a second or two. We'll wait for that to happen. So it's powered off, vagrant machine's off. If I now go to Chrome and go to swanseazoo.test/animals, what happens? My website, the Chrome browser, is now trying to talk to the IP address 192.168.10.10, which no longer exists because the virtual machine is powered off. So this is like a website going down on the internet. The web browser is trying to connect to the website. It doesn't currently respond, and so we get a site can't reach sort of page, a timeout. Okay, so that's something to be aware of. And the other thing is, say you mess up this virtual machine or you just don't want it anymore. How do you get rid of it? All you do is type vagrant destroy and you press enter. And this should ask me, am I sure? Normally asks me, am I sure? There we are, yeah. Are you sure you want to destroy Homestead 7 VM virtual machine? So I'm destroying this virtual machine, yeah? Now remember, our data file, Laravel, was mapped in. So this isn't actually destroying the Laravel folder. So once again, we've got the Homestead, which is a one-to-one mapping with the inside virtual machine. We've got the Laravel folder, which contains our websites that we're working on. And this Laravel folder is mapped into this virtual machine as specified in the homestead.yaml configuration file. And then we got all our websites in here, one in each folder. If I destroy the virtual machine, what this is doing is cleaning up VirtualBox. So we delete the VirtualBox, it's gone away, but it doesn't get rid of our websites. They live perfectly happily in our home directory in Laravel. So we've still got our website here. If you wanted the website to come back and recreate the virtual machine, you just type vagrant app and it'll go and recreate the virtual machine as per the instructions in homestead.yaml, and it'll go and create the virtual machine, link all the files back in, and you'll have a website up and running after that one command. The final thing I want to mention is if you change the homestead.yaml file after you've created the virtual machine, yes, you can go and destroy it and then recreate it by typing vagrant app, but it takes time to do the vagrant app fresh. It takes time to re-import the box and set it all up. So if you go to laravel.com, go to the documentation, go to Laravel Homestead, then you can see down here there's provision. So down here you can see if you change the site's property after provisioning the Homestead box, so if you want to add a new website or something like this, all you need to do to make the Nginx web server inside the VirtualBox repick everything up is to run vagrant reload -- provision, and that will sort of do as little setup or as little reconfiguration as possible to your VirtualBox. But generally you don't need to run this. So it's just vagrant app to start the virtual machine, vagrant halt to shut it down, and occasionally maybe, I don't know, once a month or something, or if you're completely finished with the project, you could type vagrant destroy to get rid of it. Of course, this isn't going to install the software, it'll just destroy the virtual machine. Anyway, that's enough for now, and good luck experimenting and getting your feet wet with Laravel. So thanks for listening, and good luck.